Everybody, welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, Crew Talk, episode 5. Today I got a special guest, my boy Daniel James. He's a graduate of Yale. He works in Silicon Valley, and he's a co-founder of a becoming startup that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. We've been boys for a while, and I see you're building your brand and giving people opportunities to, well, really, you're inspiring people, and that's awesome. So great to be on.
Appreciate that, man. So how's life in California right now with the coronavirus and all that?
It's interesting. I work from home a lot, so the quarantine thing for me isn't that tough. But I think just like the normal things that I'm used to and I take for granted, I'm starting to see like just interactions with people. I miss people going to the grocery store and just getting in and out. It's not like that anymore here. You have to stand in line for a long time before you can really get in. So really, it's just those two things: missing people, and things are taking a lot longer because of the social distancing. And then when you look past like that part, it's just like it's a sad time in the world. I stay positive, but both economically and health wise, like families are dying, and back home in Baton Rouge, I know some people who have it, and it's tough to hear about. And then economically, it's one of the toughest times ever. I think a lot of people our age don't see that part, but if you're like, if basics of economics and you're like in business, you see that people are losing jobs. We were grateful to flourish for years, really since 2008. But now, we hit another time where it's a tough time economically, and people are losing jobs. So I think that's probably going to be the biggest impact, and people will have to stay strong, get innovative, and from a company perspective and a job perspective, you need skills and deliver the most value ever, or else you just will have a tough time.
Yeah, I feel like it really hits home for people like once it affects like them personally. Like you said, I know a couple people who actually have it too. And I mean,
Yeah.
I keep up with what's going on, so I knew it was real. I knew it wasn't fake, but it definitely hit differently when like someone called me and was like, yeah, such and such has it. It's
Yeah,
definitely,
man.
yeah. And then regarding like working at home and things, what do you think I guess like the job market will be with people actually being able to work from home and like still get stuff done? Like how will that affect life after the virus is gone?
It's a great question, and I try not to predict. I try to take
Mm-hmm.
it day by day, but the world will change forever. And you mentioned my startup, and kind of what we do is help people, work better. So it's a tech company, but it's really at its core right now to begin an ergonomics company. And what we do is we use emerging technology to track and correct your posture. So say I'm leaning in, I can see that via an avatar that mimics me. And then we also give you different exercises you can do throughout the day to stay active. And you have a lot of people who are coming home now and working from home, whereas, at a big company, they might help you set up your desk properly, set up your monitor, your second computer. Well, you get home, there's no real education anymore. It's not set for you. So we give people education on that.
Right.
And I think that's like going to be key moving forward. Like, are you equipped just for your wellness
Mm-hmm.
to work at home? And then, some trends that I could see past this is just like people will have to learn how to, collaborate with each other more effectively, because a lot of times from my time in the corporate world, I would see my manager or director, just in passing, and some of the most important conversations I had there, like getting funding from a project, and that doesn't happen anymore. If you don't have a meeting set up with that, stakes person, that stakeholder in your company, you don't really
Yeah.
have what they call water cooler conversations anymore. So, that's kind of two things I see will just, people will think about a lot more. It's like from a corporate perspective, am I giving my employees the ergonomic and wellness things that they need for their well-being? You see a lot of companies now buying Calm and Headspace and
Yeah.
meditation apps, but they're worried about their employees' mental health, which they should have been anyway. But I think during a crisis and pandemic, you see things come to the forefront. And then from, like I said, a collaboration perspective, you'll see a lot of companies investing in Slack, investing in, you know, different tools to really keep
Communicate.
everything in a loop. Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel as though like once this is over, like the workers, like the employers will have more power to like ask to be able to work remotely just because like a lot of companies still have to like get stuff done regardless of what's going on in the world. And those people are working at home right now. So I'll give them like the incentive to be like, I want to work remotely. I don't want to live here. I want to go such and such, but I can still produce and do the services you guys need.
Yeah, I agree completely. And, you know, we were talking about this a bit. Silicon Valley, the culture, you know, when you see Silicon Valley, people think, oh, it's super relaxed. And I think people get that a bit off. It's not relaxed as in people don't work hard here. Like, people work hard here, especially if you're in a startup. But
Believe
I
me.
think, but I think what is true is that people only care if you get the job done. They don't care necessarily if you're in your cubicle at your desk all the time getting it done. And that's the benefit of working at in this industry in Silicon Valley. And I think now companies are going to see this and they'll have the tools to do that. Like a lot of companies just don't have, you know, what we're using right now. Before the pandemic, they didn't have Zoom or so forth. But now they're investing in it, and now they see it can be done. It's not necessarily always the best because you do miss those human interactions. But like you said, they will have, I think, more flexibility.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what shakes up and like what remains the same when it's all over.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to see how this really, you know, impact. Even like I said, the economic impact, man. I think people see it, but people our age don't really see it. Like even me, like I was young when 2008 happened, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't really know. Like this is the first time we're living through this, and it just so happens to be probably the worst one there ever has been.
Right.
So
It's actually affecting
I'm
us
very,
at a different level
yeah.
than back then. Like back then it was like, oh, something's happening, but mom and dad take care of it. But now like we're adults, so like it's hitting our pockets
Yeah.
and hitting our way of life.
Oh
So
yeah, it definitely is. Like, how has it impacted you? Like, I have use cases, you know, like where I see it. Oh, that impacted me. Has anything happened to you, like
I mean,
personally?
some of the med schools I applied to, like, were hitting
Yeah.
me back saying, like, yeah, our process is delayed, so we won't be able to get back to you for
Right.
so long.
Right.
And there's like a
Right.
deadline when you have to accept whichever school you're going to in order to like start applying for financial aid, things like that. So I'm sitting there,
Huh.
I'm waiting to get the school I want to go to, but I have the backup. So it's kind of like, where do you go? Like, are they gonna respond, or like, am I gonna miss out on certain things? But
Yeah.
that's trivial stuff compared to what some people are going through.
Right. Exactly. That's why I try to, you know, not complain too much. Like, because people are dying. Like,
Yeah,
I can't be one of those people who say this isn't a big deal. Someone's parents and kids like are dying from this. So even if it's not, you know, people try to compare it to, oh, there's been worse. Who cares? Like people are
it's bad
dying.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah, but no, that's interesting. So the med schools, they're not, you know, they're not being lenient with the other part. If the med schools are pushing it back, why aren't they saying, okay, we're gonna push the financial aid situation back?
uh, it's hard to say. It's where it's like a lot of things can be done remotely. Like an interview can be done remotely,
Yeah,
but it's hard to say. It's a few schools I'm waiting to hear back from, and like they're supposed to get back to you like around April. So I
that's
actually been hearing,
now. Yeah,
yeah. So it just like this whole thing just happened like right around the time like people were supposed to be traveling to different schools for interviews, and then
right,
spring
right,
break was not too long ago, so the schools aren't in session during that time.
right.
But yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, a lot of people have to figure stuff out. So,
Yeah.
so let's talk about a little bit about your background, where you're from, how you got to be where you are
Absolutely.
now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'll keep it brief, but here is some key things. So as you know,
Mm.
I grew up like we both from the boot.
Yep.
Grew up in Baton Rouge. You know, 45 minutes away from you, 30 if you don't want to be dangerous. And we, you know, I grew up with two parents who instilled core values in me, and I feel really grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, just, you know, doing the right thing, and that people take, you know, have different uh, they look at that in different ways. But I always try to, you know, treat people right, and they instilled discipline in me, and they still, I think, really the two things that really kind of led to my upbringing were uh, athletics and academics. So
Mm-hmm.
growing up, to be honest with you, those were the two things that really stuck with me from, you know, grades from elementary school all the way into college, which I'll get to that. So grew up really focusing heavy on school and athletics, and skipping kind of to high school. I had the opportunity to play football at a very high level, and also did well academically. And that kind of led to me being on different platforms to showcase my talents in both ways. And bagging up a little bit, it was hard to get there. So I'm not your typical. So I played D lineman, but I'm not your typical defensive lineman. I'm like 5'11" and 3/4, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people see me and they're like, "Joe, you have to be 6 feet. You have to be six something." I'm like, "Listen, I know how tall I am because I know the pain it is not to be 6 feet and try to get recruited." So my
Yeah.
sophomore year, you know, I made a decision, and I'm fast forwarding it a bit, not really talking about the younger days, because I think the core is really here. What kind of changed my life? My sophomore year, in high school, I decided I wanted to play Division I football. One, because I wanted to go to college, and I wanted my parents to not really have to take on a burden of me doing so. And I thought that, you know, that would be the best chance for the best way to springboard my future professionally, is to get to a good school, and do it through athletics. So I made that decision. I wasn't that great though, to be quite honest with you. If you look at my sophomore film, it was terrible. I ran a 40-yard dash.
Uh-huh.
And for the football people out there, you know that is dirt slow. The turtle could have beat me. And one day, I was just outside training, because although I wasn't great, I had a sickening, obsessive work ethic.
Yeah.
I was outside training, and this guy who really changed my life, his name's Keith Ballard. He saw me training, and he said, "Hey, man, you want to train with me?" I had no idea that this guy had trained Marshall Falk. I don't know if you know Dylan Moses, but he's popular in Louisiana from
Mm-hmm.
getting offered by LSU when he was seventh grade. And he took me under his wing. And long story short, um, by the time I was a senior, I had like 30 plus Division I offers. And backing up a bit more, um, a lot of those offers, like I said, I had strong academics, were from Ivy League. So I got offers from every Ivy League college, and I kind of broke through the barrier of my slow 40-yard dashes, went from like a 5'6" to the high fours, and I gained weight as I was doing it. I had some solid tape and great academics, and um, I decided that, hey, I had this opportunity in front of me. I didn't know what Harvard was. I didn't know what Yale was. I didn't know what Princeton was, other than the shows. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is probably really the reason why I knew about Princeton. And I said, let me see what these things are about. And as you know, from there, I decided to take a visit, and that's when me and you met.
Yep.
And that's when I really saw that there was a different world out there. And my parents were, you know, telling me too. And like I said, Coach Keith, they were telling me, but until you go there, you really don't see. It's like, oh, wow, this is like Harry Potter. Like, people live in castles at these schools. And you were telling me, like, yeah, do you know the Mars candy bar? I was like, of course, like all the, you know, Mars. Yeah, they make a lot of candy. He was like, you told me that, yeah, well, one of the daughters, they go to school here. And I was like, oh,
I remember
okay. Like,
that.
yeah, I remember like it was yesterday. I was like, huh. And then of course, you know, I was being recruited. So the coaches were telling me like, yeah, man, we have these people went here, these people went here. And I was like, well, I knew that I watched Shark Tank a lot growing up. So that was me. Like I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't necessarily know what. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship really meant. I'm starting to really understand it now. It equals hard, but I knew that I wanted to make an impact.
Right.
And I thought that I could really make an impact if I went to one of these schools. And you, just knowing you and meeting you, long story short, there's a lot that went into it, but I decided to go to Yale. So that was, kind of my K through 12 decisions. And then I finally got to Yale, and I could spend all day talking about that, but I think the thing that encapsulates it is that you meet pretty much, like, it's hard not to say, the best of the best in their fields. Like everyone there is great at two things at least. One is going to be
Yeah.
academic, and they're going to have another skill. For example, mine was football. Like and most people have more than two. And you
Especially,
meet people.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, it
yeah.
felt like everyone there was like academics, something, and they probably could do something with music. Like you could sing, play an instrument.
Right,
I was shocked at other
right.
people I saw in musicals doing stuff like that.
Yeah, man. It's like, everyone is like, they're great at something else. And they're also, it's a truly global school.
Hmm.
So not only are you meeting people who are so interesting, have interesting passions, they
Right.
bring the perspective of where they're from, which is global.
Hmm.
And I'm not sitting here saying that Yale is perfect. Yale has its, you know, downs, just like any other institution. But what you get from there, what you leave from there, is what they call now the Yale experience. It used to be, I think, you went there, and people still do. Like, don't get me wrong, I went there for my education,
Right.
but you get the experience of perspective that you just can't buy. Even like being now in the corporate world, like I look back, and I've only been out 6 months, maybe.
Hmm.
Well, no, I graduated in May, but 6 months since I moved out here, and I'm really day by day realizing that, man, that place is special. So I gained a lot from that experience. Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
you
thought you
took the
said
words
something.
right out of my mouth. I was gonna ask you about the Yale experience because like
For sure.
a lot of people who listen to this, like I never talked about my experience on here. That'll
Yeah,
be at another day. But like people would hear
yeah,
about it and they hear like, oh man, there's crazy people, like they're rich people. Like
yeah,
it's like a fantasy to them. But like you have like
yeah,
a great story, like being raised with two parents who like instilled like quality values that anyone would have. Like how
yeah.
does transitioning from like what people would say is like a normal life or like the everyday thing
Mm,
to this fantasy world? Like how was the transition into
mm.
that?
That's a great question, Tim. I'm trying to remember because it wasn't quick. Like, I mean, dude, like for one, we from Louisiana, bro. Like, for one, when I first got there, no one knew what I was saying.
Yeah,
Like,
the
I
slang
forget about
barrier.
that now. Yeah, like I forget about that now. But like, people literally did not know what was coming out of my mouth, and I
The
was just like,
crazy
huh?
thing is, like, I feel like the only people who like got used to it were the people who were around me since day one. Like I met new people senior
Yeah.
year who still like struggle. They'd be like, "What did he say?"
Right,
And
right. I
you would
think,
think that you'd lose the
yeah,
accent at least a little bit, but it's a huge shock.
yeah, it is, dude. It really is. So that was the first thing, was just like, bro, people don't know what I'm saying. They probably think, the kind of the thing behind that, the stereotype is like, oh, probably not as educated,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Cause I didn't, I spoke a lot of slang. Like, dude, I went to McKinley High School. Like, I don't know if you know about McKinley High School, but I think the best way to put it, Boosie went there, Lil Boosie, the rapper. Kevin Gates went there. Like,
Yeah,
the history is strong. Like it's a place where, like, one, is tough. I love it. It's just like, yo, both you go there for the experience, but the experiences are different. I'll say
right.
that much.
Yeah.
But man, it's polar opposites, dude. Like
Hmm.
McKinley and like McKinley, like if you can really be what you want to be by going to McKinley, which is why I love it. And I think in a way I'm an example of that. But it's like, it's different, dude. It's in South Baton Rouge, which is like a tough neighborhood. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. but like you meet my closest friends I met at McKinley. But I say all that to say that when you go from that environment, where like let's be honest, dude, like it almost became like, oh, somebody was shooting. Oh, it's raining outside. Like that was normal.
Yeah,
Like that, it became normal.
and to think that
Yeah.
people at Yale like may have never even seen a gun. Like it this end of the spectrum to this end of the spectrum.
You're right, dude. Exactly. And I'm glad you backed it up a little bit because it's deep like that. It's like, man, we really went. Well, at least I know I went from polar opposites as far as culture and school,
Mhm.
which brings in some other things like how do you come to this environment and still be yourself? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people get lost there, and they lose their identity. But to answer your question, like that transition, right? So the language barrier was the first. It's like I felt like I was from a different country. Like people just didn't understand me. And then going into Yale, like I'm talking a lot now. If we did this interview in high school, I probably would be at word 20 by now. And that's it. So I just
Yeah.
didn't talk. And that's just how I think I wouldn't say that's how like being in an environment like McKinley shapes you, but it's like people are a little more, you don't do all that too much talking. Like you I don't know, you try to you talk when needed. Like you don't just keep on blabbering off. And I started to really become that way.
Yeah. I mean,
And
to be completely honest, like where we're from, it's like you like you said, you talk when it's needed, but at Yale it's like a lot of people just running their mouth about a lot of stuff. They
right, like
they were smart and they were saying like intellectual things, but
right.
from going from like these people are talking about what they need to talk about, these people are talking about like just because they want the attention on them. Like it's a little bit
Yeah,
of like I said, it's just two different worlds.
it's two different worlds, bro. Literally, like we could probably have a 10 we could have a series on how different they are.
Yeah.
And like so that I was just saying, pretty much I had to get over that too. Like people want to hear from me,
Mm-hmm.
and me distancing myself was you go to Yale because you want to meet people. Like
Right.
at the end of the day, people are all you have. And I realize that not more now. I guess we'll get to that point, like being, in the business or like all you got is people. Like you don't have your problems is people. Like you need people, especially with the things I'm doing. It might be different as a doctor, but like
Yeah.
for me, it's like it's a people game. Like,
Right.
do you have So I
To
realized
touch
that.
on that point real quick, like the fact that you said it's a people game, like the whole motto of Vibes Crew is to like inspire people to like grow and to like connect with each other. And like
Yeah,
the podcast is to like give people a chance to like tell their story so other people can be inspired. But I think that's just what life is
yeah,
about, just like connecting. Like network, Yale was like a microscope view of like what the world was. Like so many
right.
people from all over, and like we have
Yeah,
to go in there and be ourselves and connect with each other.
yeah, dude. I agree a bit completely, and I love what you're doing with Vibes Crew.
Appreciate
It's
that.
consistent. I love it. But yeah, bro. It's a people game, and I knew that I needed to get out my shell. I was, I try not to say the introvert extrovert thing because I hear different opinions on that, and I don't know necessarily what's true. But I would say, in broad terms, I was an introvert. I didn't want to talk to you. Like I would want to go read a book about business, watch Shark Tank, go play football, start my day over. But
Right.
throughout the summer, I realized like everyone was hanging out with each other because when you first go, I played football, and you did too.
Mm-hmm.
When we get on campus before everybody, and we are in camp and we hang out during the summer in New Haven, and I realized, hey, I need to like go meet people, and I need to get to know these people. I want to be with these people for 4 years, and this is like why I came here. So
For
we
probably like 70% of our 4 years there, we were around people.
right, dude, like the same people, like our teammates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, dude. So I was like, listen, let me. I mentioned this earlier. I don't want to necessarily change myself, but in order to grow, there must be change, right?
Right.
So I decided to get out of my shell and start talking to people. And I realized when I started to talk to people, like my story was interesting. I brought perspective, and I think that's what Yale teaches you is to know that like your opinion matters. Everyone
Definitely
might
does.
not care. Like in the real, I say the real world, but like outside of Yale, like at Yale, you can like voice your opinion, and typically people hear you.
Mhm.
Outside of that, it's not so much. But at least at Yale, I knew that when I spoke, for the most part, people were listening, and I was bringing something fresh. So that
Right.
was, as the summer went on, that transition happened, and then from there, the transition from academics wasn't what I expected. They say it's harder to get in than it is to stay in. I'll say this: I was a poli sci major, so it might be a bit different if I was pre med like you, but I was well equipped from McKinley to excel at Yale, and I did have to adapt to sports.
Mhm.
College football is no joke,
It's
and
a different beast,
um,
man.
yeah, it's tough. You gotta be strong. Like my coach, my trainer used to tell me like, in order to play college football, if you go and do that, it's because you're crazy. Like something is a bit wrong with you. And I didn't really know what he meant
Until
until
you
I
got in it.
started doing it. Yeah, and I realized, oh, yeah, like something. Yeah, you have to be something. You're borderline crazy to play this game because this is war. So I got
So
over that hump. Yeah, yeah,
some people like they don't realize that like when you're in high school, like most of the time coaches like have a contract and like they either like a coach and a teacher or like they know people
yeah,
on the board. But when you go to college to play a sport, like what you do on the field is feeding those people's families and like
right.
you may I'm not gonna say you're a workhorse because I don't like that connotation, but
Yeah,
it's not for fun anymore.
right. Exactly, exactly. It's not the
Yeah.
same. And most of all, it's like, I mean, my senior year of high school, like, I mean, just be honest, like, I was dominated, and I'm
Hmm.
sure you were too, or else you don't get to go to D1. But
Right.
in college, listen, it's just tough. Everyone's on the same level, just
Hmm.
as fast, and I was they're way bigger, so it was tough to get used to. But got used to that, and um, you know, I guess to kind of sum it up, I started to really blossom as a person, um, and get to know people there on campus, and get outside just the football circle, meet other communities, start
Hmm.
communities. Me and you started Yale Hip Hop.
Let's talk
You
about that
know,
because
yeah,
I don't tell too many people about like I tell people about it, but I never told people how I came about or like the fact that me and you both did it together.
yeah, dude. I mean, it's simple. Like me and you used to play 2K all the time, right? Like that's one thing I regret. No, I can't say I regret it because maybe we wouldn't be as close. But while we was playing 2K, people was probably doing more productive stuff. But hey, it's college.
You're
Um,
right. A whole lot
and
of
we
what
was
ifs.
exactly. We was playing 2K, and I think we were both very entrepreneurial. You have vibes crew. I think being a doctor in itself is people look at entrepreneur, but I feel like there's different types because at the end of the day, I see an entrepreneur as someone taking a risk to start an enterprise. If you're going to have your own practice as a doctor, that's an entrepreneur to me. You're taking a risk
Yeah.
by not necessarily being in the system and starting an enterprise. So we're very entrepreneurial. And we're
Right.
like, listen, we love hip hop. What does Yale have? We found the problem, we found the niche, and we was like, dude, let's start it. And most of all, we didn't just talk it, we did it, and we
Yeah.
started a community. And like it's like was tough. Like no one came to our first events, but I think kind of like the cap, and things have happened since then. But the cap, I was like, man, like we put in work and it worked. That was the last event you were a part of. Our Let's Top It Up when people came out, and it was like, wow, this is Yale for real. Like we're really sitting here at Yale University debating about hip hop, which is Yale in itself, because who debates like that?
Yeah.
But
My
it
favorite
was
part of
fun.
that was the fact that like I like the icing on the cake was that I knew like our friends would show up. The people who I had never seen on campus had came. And it was like, wow,
Yeah,
like we came with an idea that was like attracting and like interesting to people who we didn't know about.
yeah, yeah. Because time is the in life too, but like time is like the most valuable resource, especially at Yale. You got all these organizations, you have your academics, and then everyone's trying to get that job. Everyone's trying to get that grad school, that med school. So if
Right.
you can convince people to use their free time to come to an event, I was like, dude, like we might have something here. And then
And it was during it was like it was pretty cold
finals.
outside.
And it was
During
like close to
final.
finals.
Yep.
So it was great doing that with you, bro. And yeah, I was just saying, like, we started communities, joined communities, and besides football, now it's awesome. And I think that pretty much sums it up. It's just like I had to grow as a person at Yale,
Hmm.
change a bit, but it was to grow, but still keep my roots and be a part of communities. And then, there's a lot of downs and ups. And I kind of mentioned it slightly, but my senior year, I had an opportunity. Well, some downs happened. Like my senior year, I got concussed in football,
Hmm.
which you've been through a lot. I think people don't talk about it a lot, but it's the worst thing ever. You talking about quarantine, but imagine being in a dark room by yourself for 3 weeks while everyone is out. Like that's just the limited case. I was in there for almost 2 months.
Yeah.
I think that was a tough time for me, dude. And there's plenty of tough times at Yale, but that was a tough time. But after that, I had the opportunity to really start working on my first business, like my first real one, with
All
some
right.
awesome guys. And that startup is still going on. It's called Prepared, and it was started by another Yale football guy, Michael Chime, who basically saw a problem that he felt like he could fix. It's an epidemic. I think the noise will go down now because it's such a political thing, and no one's talking about politics right now. They're talking about the virus, and no one's talking about school right now because there isn't
Hmm.
school. But the issue with school shootings, and he felt that the way that people were dealing with them, or at least when they happened, was so old. It's like you get on the intercom and you try to figure it out there. You try to call 911, but really 911 isn't great in these situations. So he figured out a way, and we really figured out a way. He had the idea, and we put it to product, I should say, of how to make that process easy. Like it will never be easy. It's like really tough. Like
Yeah.
there's really no great solution. Like people are getting killed, and I don't mean to dim the conversation. It's really sad though. But long story short, I got the chance to work on that, and we pitched the idea into the Yale kind of entrepreneurial ecosystem and got some funding from that to really try to get it to people. And that was a huge learning experience. And that's kind of what I left Yale with, was on that note. And that kind of led to where I'm at right now. To kind of cap this off, I'm in Silicon Valley, and I decided to come here, and I was working for Adobe for a while. This is my day job, and I met, again, I said it's about people. I met some great people
Hold on,
here.
let me stop you
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there. For people like watching this, like the transition from like college to going straight into like
Ooh,
what you want
great
to do,
point.
like for
Yeah,
someone who like might like computer science or like entrepreneurship, or
yeah.
what's the process of like making that jump from college, like getting the job that you wanted and like going off to a place that no one has ever been that you know of.
I think there's a few things in that question. One is like, how do you get to the job that you want, right? Like, say
Hmm.
you don't want to be a doctor. Say like right after college, I want to go to this industry where there's Wall Street, Silicon Valley, you know, lawyer, want to go to law school, so forth.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, I grew up watching Shark Tank. I didn't know quite what I wanted to be, but I knew that I wanted to make an impact, not necessarily by working for a large company. Like, there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. And trust me, this is like people, a lot of people are quite, this is no really better word than ignorant about entrepreneurship. It's like, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to be my own boss. One, that's not what being an entrepreneur really is. It's not about that, because
Hmm.
if you're thinking like that, then you probably won't be successful. It's more so, I have this idea that I want to foresee in the world, and I'm going to go through hell to make it happen, and I'm going to bring people with me. And
Right.
trust me, it's harder than working for a company and having a boss. But I kind of
Because
skipped the
everything's
part.
on you at that point. Like you can't fall
Yeah,
back on anything.
exactly. Exactly. It could be a huge waste of time. Like, that's just the reality.
Hmm.
But to answer the question, bro, kind of my transition from college to corporate was a bit easier because I had an internship my junior year. So I
Hmm.
got a taste of it. I got a taste for 3 months. I came here to the Bay and worked, and that really happened. I don't have a traditional route from Yale as far as how I got that job. I literally applied on Indeed, for Adobe. and I got it. Usually it comes through a referral, and I would recommend anyone who's trying to get a job to, first of all, get on LinkedIn, depending on what you want to do. I should say, but even so, like, even if your job's not really like LinkedIn, even if the people who your career path in your profession, if they're not heavy on LinkedIn, still get one, and like follow those people, see their path, so you can shape your path. Yours won't be exactly like theirs, but I was lucky enough to have people, and I'll just throw out some names, but Mitchell Jones, who's
Solid dude.
yeah, solid dude who's came here a few years out, and then Erica, you might know her. I'm sure you know Erica, who was 1 year out. I saw them going to Silicon Valley, right? And I was like, okay, what are they doing? And my path is actually quite different from them, but I talked to them. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And how can I get there? And I had a mentor from Yale football, Dylan Drake, who told me, he works for Google. He told me how to do it. So I say all that to say, get you some role models. Like,
connect with people.
People. It's a people game. Like, are they in the industry? Don't even have to be the same position as you, because if they're in the industry, they know someone who's in that position, right? So basically, I talked to them and I was like, listen, I want to do this, maybe this. And they gave me the different routes. And when it comes to Silicon Valley, there's 3 things you can do to win. And I learned this from a guy, Michael Seibel, who's also someone that I look up to, and I had the chance to talk to. He's like a huge tech guy down here, African-American guy too, which is, just rare. Who has, been successful in the industry. You don't see that a lot. So I say all that to say, I learned from him. And speaking to these people, there's 3 ways to really attack Silicon Valley. 1, you choose a big company to work for who you feel like will be successful, and you work your way up through the corporate ladder. I looked at that and I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to do that, but I know that's the way. 2, which is, I'm going by risk now. So this is the second riskiest way. So the first one was the least riskiest. The second riskiest way is to say, okay, what startup do I think is going to make it huge? Because even though you're not Mark, you're not Zuck, if you're number 30, it's probably only one in the century or whatever. But so if there's if you're not Zuck, but you can be number 50 at Facebook, you're still like, I don't know if you're a billionaire. You're like a multi-millionaire. So the other path,
to get in early, and to you don't have to be the founder, but if you put some bricks down to build the house, you was there.
Exactly. So that's another route. And then the final route. So number 3 is, start it yourself, co-found it, and build it from the ground up, which is by far the most risky. Because with the second one, you're getting a salary to start off probably, and you can, you're still betting huge. But with the first one, it's way tough. So I say all that to say, I saw those routes, and then I talked to some people, and I was like, listen, I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't really know what that meant. They said, Daniel, what are you passionate about? And to be honest, growing up, really the only thing I was passionate about was football. So I didn't quite have that thing yet. And it was like, listen, go work for a big company for 2 years, which I ended up doing way less. But that was a route. And then it said, save your money, because in Silicon Valley, it's expensive. Have runway to go do something that you're passionate about. So I took that route, and like I said, I talked to the mentors of how to get the job, and I think that's pretty much how I got there.
That's awesome. I think your story from start to finish is definitely going to resonate with somebody, because even though everyone's different, there are definitely people chasing the same thing, coming from like similar upbringings. Sure. Really, I like to end the podcast with a couple of random facts that might hit home to you. So the first one
about me?
No, it's not about you.
Okay.
So the first one is, everyone knows Randy Jackson from American Idol. He's from Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm sure.
I remember you did. I'm not sure if you still are, but you did a little stint as being vegan, which is like a.
No, I'm still on that. Yeah, plant based. I try to term it as that.
So some of like super famous people who are vegan are Zac Efron from Disney Channel, Beyonce, and Bill Clinton. They're all vegan, and they've been
Okay.
for a while. And
Okay.
I guess a history fact is that handshakes, like you know what the original purpose of a handshake was?
No, I have no clue.
It was to make sure that the person you were meeting didn't have a weapon on them. So that was the whole point of the handshake.
In Zulu, they actually taught us that. I didn't know that was worldwide though.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, those are my three random facts.
I like that.
To end it off, like what's like a message that you want to just leave people with? If you could just say one thing to everyone watching.
Yeah, I think just kind of relating to both of us is like, don't be scared to try something new if it can make you grow. Like we came from Baton Rouge and you came from New Orleans. I mean, we came from Louisiana, and I think going to school on the East Coast, most people look at it as like, no, I'll be homesick and stuff like that. But I think for both of us, we could say it changed our lives. So do something new. You might grow from it.
Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody for watching. This is episode 5 of Crew Talk. Y'all like and subscribe. We'll be back with some more.
Great doing this with you, bro.
Appreciate it.
All right.